Hi and welcome to another Techniques on Tuesday. I'm Debbie Yeomans and I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I would like to share with you the Starburst technique. As you can see, I've got a couple of variations here. So what it is using strips of your designer series paper and forming a starburst. So let me start. I'll go with the green ones first. So to create these cards, I've used the Garden Lane Designer Series paper, and I've cut 4 strips of Designer Series paper at 1 inch by 12 inches, or you could use 2 strips and the opposite side, so I've ended up with 4 different patterns. So once I've got it cut at 1 inch strips, I'm then going to cut it in each of those strips. Bring in my cutter. At 4 inches. So let me just cut that at 4 inches. Okay, and then once you've got your pieces cut, you need to cut them into triangles. Now it's important to remember to keep your triangle cut from one corner to the other, that you don't accidentally move it in the wrong way. So I'm going to line up the 2 corners of my paper with the center line there, and I like to start with the blade in the middle and cut it from one place corner to the next, and you'll do that with all your strips of Designer Series paper, remembering to cut from the same corner each time. The reason why I like to start in the middle is so that I'm not getting it caught right on that corner and it turning, bunching up at the corner. So I just cut this one as well. And if you feel really confident, you could always, because it's Designer Series paper, cut it at the same time, but if one at a time is okay as well. Just line that back up again. Alright, so once you have all your triangles cut, you're going to need a piece of Whisper White cardstock cut at 7 centimeters by 14 centimeters, and I've actually, I don't know if you can see, but I've actually scored the halfway mark at 7 centimeters along here. That just helps start the pattern from the center. And you will take one each of your patterns, and you can play with them. You can use it because it's 2 different things. You can get one of each side if you want, or you can keep going with just the 2 different patterns. Alright, so once you've worked out what you want to do with your pattern, you'll want to add some adhesive all over that piece of card. And start in the middle, line that up with making sure you're covering all that piece of white cardstock, and you butt the next piece right up against the next one and keep going with your pattern that you want. Now it's important when you get to the corners that you make sure that you cover over that corner. Sometimes we might get a bit down, and you can see when that goes up, you've got your piece of white cardstock. You don't want that to happen. You want to make sure that piece of white cardstock is completely covered. So you keep going till you've got that all covered with your triangles, and you're forming a nice starburst. Once you've got them all covered in, here's one I prepared a little bit earlier. I actually used some strips of cardstock and embossed them with an embossing folder as well, cut to the 1 inch by 4 inches. So once you've got your piece of card completely covered, you'll flip it over and cut off all the overhang excess bits. And then your piece is ready to create. So I've just cut a piece of garden green cardstock at 14.5 by 7.5 to do as a mat, and I can then place it on my card base and embellish as I want. The other one I've got is the one with the Parisian Designer Series paper, and it's got a complete starburst, so it's going to start in the middle, and you need the Designer Series paper cut a little bit different this time. So you'll want 2 strips of Designer Series paper cut at 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches by 12 inches, and cut them up into the different strips. So one strip you'll cut with at 5 inches and 2 lots of 3.5 inches, and the other piece will be 5 inches and 2 by 2.5 inches, and leaves you with a 2-inch one. And again, I've already done it, but you'll then cut them into your triangles again like I have before. So we've got a heap of different sizes this time with our triangles, and this time your piece of card base is 14 centimeters by 9.5 centimeters, and you'll just need to make start where you want the center of your starburst to be, keeping in mind that you've got the longer bits that need to cover out to the corners. So I'm going to make my center point here, and so I'll start there, and then I've got the opposite piece, but this time for a bit of variance I'm going to leave a little gap so you've got the blue coming in. So we've got that going like that. Just again, remember that your piece of Designer Series paper doesn't leave gaps of the blue there, so we can put that one there, and then we've got another piece that will go there. And again, you can put adhesive on the back of these ones this time, so that you have got so let me just start and put the adhesive on the back of that this time, and stick that one down as my starting point. Okay, and then you'll keep going around like that till you've got that all covered in. So once you start getting these smaller gaps here, you can start using some of the smaller pieces to continue your pattern going around. And with this one, it doesn't, because I've got a center focal point, it doesn't really matter too much if I don't line up all my points, but you're still getting your starburst pattern happening there. So that is Starburst. You can do lots of different varieties with that, and that is our technique for today. I hope you have a go at that, and look back on my blog post for the details that I've shared with you today. Thank you for joining with me.